Hi there, and welcome to The Daily Gardener, an almanac of garden history, literature, and small botanical joys. I'm Jennifer Ebling, and today is June 22nd. Happy summer solstice, by the way, which was yesterday. So we've turned the corner now, and we're heading back down to shorter days. But in the meantime, it is June, and this month has a way of bringing out our strongest opinions. Because when everything is blooming, when the garden is at its most generous and most glorious, we are reminded of exactly which plants we will go to the mat for. Beverly Nichols said it best. In his book, Mary Hall, he wrote, "Long experience has taught me that people who do not like geraniums have something morally unsound about them. Sooner or later, you will find them out. You will discover that they drink, or steal books, or speak sharply to cats. Never trust a man or a woman who is not passionately devoted to geraniums." Passionately devoted. Well, a few years ago, I asked listeners of the show to declare themselves either Team Tulip or Team Daffodil, and they did, passionately, without hesitation. Because that's what gardens do to us. Now, the plants are oblivious, of course. The geranium does not know you have staked your reputation on it, and the tulip doesn't care which side you're on. But we care, deeply, unreasonably, gloriously. Because the garden is not just a garden. It is a reflection of the gardener. And the plants we choose say everything about who we are. Here's today's garden history. It was on this day in 1946 that the German botanist Wilhelm Barthlott was born in Forst in the Baden-Württemberg region of southwestern Germany. In the early 1970s, Wilhelm was a young researcher at the University of Heidelberg, and he was working with one of the first scanning electron microscopes available to botanists. The machine that bounces electrons off a surface to reveal its shape at a scale far too small for any human eye to see, magnifying things up to 1,000,000 times their actual size. Wilhelm was using it to photograph the surfaces of leaves. But before scanning, the leaves had to be clean. They couldn't have any dust or grit or any water residue. So he collected specimens from the greenhouse and then would set to work cleaning them. But he noticed that some leaves didn't need cleaning at all. And they had been growing right beside the dirty leaves. The same greenhouse, same air. And yet, some of the leaves were spotless. Now, every other scientist had noticed the same thing, but had moved on. Wilhelm stopped. Under the microscope, the clean leaves revealed their secret. Their surfaces were not smooth. They were covered in thousands of tiny bumps, little microscopic wax towers, smaller than a grain of pollen, standing up from the leaf like a field of invisible mountains. And then, when a water droplet landed on that surface, it couldn't spread flat. It had almost nothing to grip. So it sat up, round and trembling, and then rolled away. And as the water droplet rolled, it gathered every speck of dust and dirt in its path, carrying all of the grime off the leaf like a tiny wet broom. The leaf wasn't being cleaned. It was cleaning itself. The lotus plant, Nelumbo nucifera, showed this most dramatically. It grows in muddy ponds, and yet its leaves are always immaculate. Wilhelm named what he had found the lotus effect. He tried to publish his finding, but 5 major journals rejected his work. In fact, one reviewer wrote that the lotus effect, quote, exists only in the fantasy of the author. Wilhelm kept a lotus leaf in his desk drawer, and when skeptics visited his lab, he would take it out, drop a single bead of water onto it, and then wait. The water rolled, and the leaf stayed clean. And that's how he won his arguments, one water droplet at a time. In 1997, his paper titled Purity of the Sacred Lotus, or Escape from Contamination in Biological Surfaces, was finally published in the journal Planta. The world caught up almost immediately. And within a year, a German company released Lotuzan, a self-cleaning paint that was based on Wilhelm Bartlott's discovery. And this special paint now coats more than 350,000 buildings across Europe. And when rain hits the paint on those walls, the water beads and rolls, taking the grime with it. And that same principle now appears in stain-resistant fabrics, self-cleaning glass, medical equipment, and waterproof coatings on everything from raincoats to spacecraft. Today, Wilhelm Barthlott is still alive. He is emeritus professor at the University of Bonn, and he is still publishing research at the age of 79. He once said of his discovery, "For a long time, I didn't quite realize exactly what I had discovered." I keep thinking about that little lotus leaf that he keeps in his desk drawer. And after all those years of being told he was wrong, the answer was sitting right there, just waiting. And it was on this day in 1960 that the landscape architect Claude Cormier was born in Princeville, Quebec, a small rural community where his father Laurent ran a dairy farm and sugar bush. After he arrived at university, Claude focused on agronomy, which is the science of soil and crops, because a specific goal had taken hold in his mind. He wanted to invent a new flower. And although he never realized that dream, Claude found his own way to create beauty: landscape architecture. Instead of a single flower, Claude's designs expanded to cover cities, leaving a legacy of beauty in the communities he touched. After training first in Toronto and then at Harvard, Claude fell under the influence of the masterful landscape architect Martha Schwartz. As he progressed in his career, Claude often referred to her professionally as his mother, and to Frederick Law Olmsted as his father. In the year 2000, Claude created the Blue Stick Garden for the International Garden Festival at Reeford Gardens in Métis-sur-Mer, Quebec. The garden was made entirely of 3,500 square wooden sticks. Each one had 3 sides that were painted blue and just one side painted orange. And that was it. Claude didn't use soil or plants, just color, rhythm, and the shifting optical effect of thousands of sticks as you walked among them. When asked about gardens without plants, Claude said simply, "Gardens are boring. How can we make gardens that look the same as we were making 100 years ago? Fashion, architecture, cinema, everything else has changed. But can we make gardens that represent who we are now?" Claude spent the next 2 decades answering that question. In Toronto, he transformed a post-industrial parking lot beside the Redpath Sugar Factory into Sugar Beach, a public park with pink umbrellas, candy-striped granite, and pure white sand beneath air that smelled faintly of sugar from the refinery next door. And when city officials first resisted the pink as too feminine and frivolous, Claude and his team leaned in and wore pink hard hats to the job site. Later, on a project in Montreal, Claude hung 170,000 pink plastic balls over the length of St. Catherine Street that crossed through a declining gay neighborhood. The street and the neighborhood was gradually reinvigorated summer after summer. In 2019, Claude was diagnosed with Leishmania syndrome, a rare genetic condition that had taken his father at 44 years old. Claude carried on. His final two projects are regarded as love letters to his two favorite Canadian cities. In 2022, Claude installed the Ring, a large, suspended circular sculpture above the plaza at Place Ville-Marie in Montreal. Made of steel and painted a vivid pink, the Ring hangs in the air by thin cables strung between buildings, and it glows at night. It doesn't touch the ground. It doesn't enclose space. It just hangs there, and the city adopted it immediately. And when Love Park opened in Toronto in June of 2023, visitors could sit along a large heart-shaped pond on a curved, red-tiled wall 169 meters long. And it instantly became a spot in the heart of the city that made people feel like they belong. Claude Cormier died on September 15th in 2023 at his home in Montreal. He was 63 years old. And whenever I see creativity or bold art in a garden, I often think of Claude and how his dream of creating a new flower as a young agronomist led to bigger dreams, sweeping installations of pink umbrellas and blue sticks, a ring and a heart, and the sound of people gathering, laughing, and simply being together because of something beautiful, which was the thing Claude was really after all along. In today's Unearthed Words, we hear passages from the Natural History of Quinine, Histoire naturelle des Cancana, by the Anglo-French physician and botanist Hugh Algernon Weddell, born on this day, June 22nd in 1819. Hugh was sent by the Natural History Museum in Paris to investigate the cinchona tree, the fever bark tree, deep in the Andes of South America. Cinchona bark was the only known source of quinine, the only medicine that could stop malaria. And that's how Hugh spent 5 years in the Andes. And he watched the men who did the real work, the cascarillos, the bark cutters who climbed into the forest to find the trees and carry them down. Hugh wrote about a single cascarillo, one man, one day, on one hillside. Hugh wrote, "Often when he sees signs of the tree on the side of the hill, he is separated from it by a river or an abyss. Then days can go by before he reaches the object that he has never taken his eye off. And then he still has to bring what he has collected to the camp, with a heavy load on his shoulders, carried for 14 to 20 days in this way, before leaving the woods in which it is created. When one considers the price one pays for doing so, one can hardly understand how there can be such unhappy people who stoop to such badly rewarded work." Hugh returned to Paris with seeds that eventually established cinchona forests across Java and the East Indies. And that's how the bark that saved millions had a face. Hugh made sure of that. And I think about the men who never made it into the history books, the cascarillos, the ones who found the trees, cut the bark, and carried it home on their backs so that the rest of the world could live. It's time to grow that garden library with today's book, My Garden in Summer by E.A. Bowles. This week we are celebrating Summer Gardens Week. It's 5 days of books devoted to the garden at its fullest, when everything that was planted in hope is finally delivering on its promise. And we begin with one of the most beloved garden books ever written. My Garden in Summer is the second volume in Edward Augustus Bowles' trilogy, Spring, Summer, and Autumn and Winter, a diary of his celebrated garden at Middleton House. Edward first published his trilogy back in 1914. He was a self-taught plantsman, a respected member of the Royal Horticultural Society, and one of the most charming writers the garden world has ever produced. He lived from 1865 to 1954, Nearly 90 years to get the garden just right. And in My Garden in Summer, Edward wrote, "I should like to analyze and define the essence of summer and decide when the moment arrives that one bids farewell to spring and feels summer has come. But there can be no hard and fast line. Certain scents and sounds mean summer to me. Taken singly, they are insufficient, but in combination, they spell a certain season." And that's what decades of gardening and years of garden writing looks like when it gets everything right. My Garden in Summer by E.A. Bowles is a classic, and it's the perfect place to begin Summer Gardens Week here on the show. And finally, here's something sweet to ignite the little botanic spark in your heart. It was on this day in 1871 that the New Zealand botanical illustrator Nina Jones was born in Christchurch, New Zealand. Nina moved to Nelson as a young girl, a small sun-soaked city at the top of New Zealand's South Island, and stayed there for the rest of her life, painting the wild-flowering plants of the islands with a precision and tenderness that botanists trusted and ordinary people loved. Nina was self-taught, and she never left Nelson to collect specimens on her own. Instead, botanists from across the country sent specimens to her, wrapping the plants in small parcels and mailing them to her work table at her home in Franklin Rise. One expert described her botanical watercolors this way: "The amount of careful labor, the trueness of color, in regard to the habits of these bush flowers, as well as the artistic perception of the artist, must speak to all lovers of New Zealand native flora." Nina painted nearly 200 studies over her lifetime. The New Zealand government selected 30 of them for the British Empire exhibition at Wembley in 1924. Reviewers singled them out among all the other New Zealand displays for their incredible beauty. The kind of work, one reviewer said, that you'd want to carry home on a postcard. One of the plants that Nina painted was the New Zealand mistletoe, Paraxylon tetrapetala, which co-evolved with two small native birds, the bellbird and the tui. The mistletoe grows in the high branches of the native beech tree, drawing what it needs through the bark of the branch itself. In summer, it blooms scarlet, small flowers shaped like a narrow tube, each one pinched tightly shut at the tip. The bellbird, called korimako in Maori, is a small bright green bird whose song sounds exactly like someone striking a clear glass bell. Then the tui is larger, with glossy black feathers, a white tuft at its throat, and a long curved beak, made exactly for the mistletoe. The bird lands on the flower, grips the sealed tip in its beak, and then twists, just like twisting the cap off a bottle. That's how the blossom opens. Without those birds, the flower stays closed. Nina brought the beauty and the wonder of the mistletoe to everyone who saw her painting. She died on February 8th, 1926, at 54 years old. And 8 months after she died, the Suter Gallery in her hometown hung nearly 250 of her paintings, far more than anyone had expected to see in one room. And her paintings were all left to the people of Nelson. One review said Nina's work was unique and destined to be a valuable collection for all time to come. I often think of Nina's painting of the New Zealand mistletoe whenever I'm talking to my students about the milkweed and the monarch, who spent thousands of years co-evolving to become exactly what the other one needed. Nina spent her whole life painting that kind of devotion, leaf by leaf, stem by stem, one careful watercolor at a time. As we close the show today, remember, you have a plant that you will go to the map for. Maybe like Beverly Nichols, it's the geranium. Maybe it's the peony, or the rose, or the daylily, or even the humble and underrated sedum. Whatever it is, own it. Plant more of it. Have it be your signature plant. And defend it vigorously at dinner parties or gatherings. Because Beverly Nichols was right. Our plant loyalties reveal our character. And a gardener who knows exactly what they love and plants it anyway is a gardener worth knowing. Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener. And remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day.